Um, so we might as well get started, and if people join later, that's great. So this is something I'm really excited about because it's been something on our list. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is like item 78, and we're at 3,600. So it was very early on that we wanted to do this, and we've got it done, and it'll be released tomorrow. You'll see it in your portal. But this is all about how we view and generate documents. So right now, when you want to generate and download a document, you click on the download button and you pick the document that you want to view and work on and generate. Now you'll see there's this warning to you that says, instead of going there, go to this icon, which is right here. Okay. It's the little document. And what that does is open up a list of all of your documents. Okay. Now you will see there's a whole bunch of features that are getting released, but one that was always a pain for me, and I'm sure pain for you, is I always want to generate a bunch of documents all at once. And now I can do that. So you'll see your documents listed. And if I want to generate the powers of attorney for this client at the same time, I can now just select those multiple documents and download them, and they'll download both of them at the same time. So you can multi-download, and I'll show that in a moment, how we do that. But let's say we're just working on a file for Jennifer Smith, and we want to preview the short will. So let's just do that. So we're just going to click on the short will, and that now opens up this pane that has two items on it. On the left, you'll see, and this is something you're familiar with, these are all the inputs for this document. Okay. So this now appears immediately. And you can, for example, for this client, choose, no, we're not going to include the joint and designated asset confirmation, and click done. It's now saved with this client. Okay. So when we come back, if we leave this client, come back 3 days later, whatever, it's automatically going to have saved all of the inputs that we put for this client. So we can choose different administrative provisions for this client, and we can do it in advance. We can do it at any point, and it's saved. Okay. And what it does is it loads your firm's default. Okay. So however you've set up your precedent, that's what's going to get loaded in first instance. And then you can go in, of course, and change it for this particular client. And it has all of the inputs that for this particular document are in here. And you're familiar with this page when you go to generate. Now it's available before you generate. Okay. And the data, again, is automatically saved. There's no save button or anything like that. You just make whatever changes you want for this particular client, and it's automatically saved. Okay. On the right is your typical preview. And it's using obviously all the data from what's on the left, as well as what's what you did in the actual plan itself, creating the residue and all of that. It's obviously using all of that data, but now it's also using the inputs on this pane as well. And so if you make a change to the inputs and then refresh the viewer, it'll incorporate those changes automatically. So that's one of the benefits of this. So you can see both, and you can input this information. Another benefit of this being saved is that we're now going to be able to advise you and use advisor insights if we see something that you've done in the settings, in the document input, that is important for you to know about, or that we see that's inconsistent or something. We can provide a warning about that. Now, so far, we haven't been able to do that because these haven't been saved, but now they are. And so they're what we call on the data model that we can use to avoid making mistakes. So we can, if we don't have a lot of screens, so we can obviously change the sizing of these and the sizing of the viewer as well. There's a minimum for the document inputs, but you can do that and move it around as you like. You can also turn off the document inputs. So if you don't want to see the document inputs, I just click here where it's the settings this button, and now I just get the preview. If I want to see the settings, I can go there and click on that and it shows back up. And always remember, if you make a change to either the inputs here, the settings here, or somewhere, creating the plan, if we change that, the viewer, you need to refresh the viewer based on that data. Okay. The other good thing is while it's doing this, you can still work on the left and make changes and drag assets and do whatever you want. You're not held up by the fact that it's still loading. Okay. So that's that. So now we have all of that. If you're on a professional plan, one of the benefits we now built in was the ability to use different users, so different lawyers' inputs. So if I were a clerk working for multiple lawyers, I could actually import either the firm-wide one or a particular lawyer's precedent, in essence, the default inputs, and use those automatically. So if you're on a professional plan, I'm happy to show you that, but that's really important if you have clerks working for more than one lawyer, and each lawyer has their own particular inputs here. Some like this clause, some like that clause, different witnesses, different preferences. You can now apply different preferences there. So that's what we have on the viewer. And then if I want to go to see another document, I have the path here. So right now we're in the short wheel, but I go back, just click on documents, up come all the other documents. Now I want to view the personal care power of attorney. And again, I've got, these are my inputs, but let's say I don't want to include the affidavit of witness and I don't want to include compensation for this client. Then I've made those changes and I just refresh this and it'll automatically do this. And if I left this client or left this file and reopened it, all of this information would still be there. So it's just much more convenient for all of these things. You put them in once and then you don't have to put them in again or save them, and they're persisted and they're available for us to make decisions about and to give you advice about and other things, warnings, etc. So now let's say I've done what I want to do. I've finalized my documents. Okay, so I'm happy with the way my documents are. I've gone to each one and I've set whatever inputs I wanted for them. Let's say I don't want any of these inputs for this particular client, and I want, I've picked my witnesses, all of those things. So now, because this is all saved, I can now download multiple documents. So if I want to just download this document itself, I could just click the download button, right? That would automatically do it. Then I have to certify, of course, as we've always done. While it's downloading the document, I can still work on the left in here, and I can still change things while it's downloading that document. The download works the same way in a sense. It's just going to get downloaded just like every other document that you did before. The good point that I showed you before was the ability now, once I've satisfied myself that I've got the documents ready to download, I can multi-pick documents, and you can pick as many as you want and click download. You only have to certify once, and you can download them, and they'll download one after another. And again, you're not stopped from changing something on the left while it's downloading. So there you go. And it downloaded both documents just like that. So that is, that's what we've got now. I know it's been a pain for everybody to have to go through got to click certify, certify, certify. This is the first stage. At some point, we may think about being able to generate documents for both spouses and that kind of stuff. But for now, that's what we got. So I wanted to show you that item. Are there any questions about where you find this document? So again, it's this. It'll remind you, if you go to the old way, it'll remind you go to this and do it. You still get your summaries, by the way, from the download button. Although one day we're going to move that over so they're all in the same place and you can multi-download those and all of those things. So we're working on that as well. But this is where you go now for downloading and for viewing your documents and for setting the inputs. So any questions on that? And then I'll show you another new feature that's coming out as well. feel free to unmute and then just ask any questions if it doesn't make sense or anything like that. All right. I've been using this, like, it's not yet in our production, what we call where everybody can use it. It's just been in our QA system where we test things. But I'm really excited by it, and because it's certainly making things a lot easier, and the fact that we can use those inputs. You'll see down the road when we have what's going to come out in the next few months, that's going to be even more important because you're going to have your own precedents that you can have multiple versions of and things like that. So with different inputs and all of that. So that's coming down the pike as well as we work on it. Again, feel free to ask questions, but I'm going to just show you one other feature. And this is going to be released very shortly. We now allow for multiple staged beneficiary under certain age. So this is still in QA because you can see we've got a spelling mistake that's being fixed. But right now, in the current version, you only have one stage distribution for your trust for beneficiaries under a certain age. Your general clause that's going to cover anybody that you haven't done a specific trust for. This is that general kind of clause. So now we've allow you to make multiple distributions. As well as rather than just percentages amounts. So you can add a stage very similar to your mandatory payments for when you're setting up a trust gift. If I wanted to leave a fixed amount, we can do that, and it'll draft the will accordingly. And it works in all of the wills. So, in this case, the draft, if I wanted to go to this draft and see the short will, what would happen is, if I'm just viewing the short will, I've got an interim distribution at age 20 of 50% and another $100 at 21 and the balance at 25. And so that's what you'll see when the preview is finished. That if we go down here, so I have no idea what I actually created here, but here's the interim stage distribution. So you can see it's drafting it there, and you can put in as many stages as you want. So that'll be out tonight as well. So those are the two big features that we're releasing in the next 24 hours. Any questions on either of those? Either of those features? Okay. What else do I have for you? One other thing I found out, which is kind of cool, if you use Zoom, they now have a feature that produces a summary of your conversation. So if you record your Zoom meetings and you click, use summary, it's going to figure out what you just talked about and give a nice summary of. Now they're still the kinks are being worked out, so it's not perfect, but it does do a summary of your discussion and an action list. So it says, and the next steps are, Jordan's going to get a copy of the shareholders agreement, and it's your client, and John is going to provide Jordan with updated whatever. And it's a new feature that's built into Zoom. And so if anybody wants to check that out, it's pretty cool. It's still a work in progress, I guess, from Zoom. But so it's not perfectly accurate, so be careful. But if you're recording it anyway, you'd have a recording, but it can summarize certainly that, bits of your conversation, which is quite important. Let's see what kind of questions we've got here. Are you using Fathom or Otter? I don't know what that is. Does anyone know if the video may be emailed to us afterwards? Sure. Happy to do that, and I'll stay on as well, Martha, if you want, once we've wrapped up. Any other questions about eState or issues that people are having, or want to see how to do something, anything like that, while we've got everybody here? Otherwise, feel free to jump off and email us. The question mark where you can get in touch with us. So other news, we're working on revamping the questionnaire so that it's client it's all. I'll redo the demo, by the way, for people who came late. But basically, we're redoing the questionnaire, the people stage first. So it's going to be more question based as opposed to trying to put into a family tree, because I know that that's also something that's been on our list for a long time. We want to make it more easier for our clients to navigate it. So we're working on that, and that'll hopefully we'll have that done by the end of November. So it's a big task, but we're working on that as we always do, trying to make improvements. And anything else? Emma raises a good question, a good point about the one of the advantages. I think I mentioned this is the data that we put in for the signing date now can be used in other documents because now we save this. And so we're going to be working on the reporting letter. We're going to also be working on the dashboard, the client dashboard. So when you see all your clients, we're going to be able to use this information that we put in here, like the signing date and the witnesses and things like that. We can use that and have it available as well. So that's, yes, I know one of the questions people often ask on the reporting letter is if I pick triggered on incapacity only, I want the reporting letter to mention that. Now we can do that. So I haven't yet built that part of it, but now that once we release this, we can now use that data. And so now when the reporting letter generates, it can check, oh, what was checked off for the power of attorney? Oh, triggered on incapacity. Okay, put this clause in. So that's really going to be useful, and we're going to build that out as we go. Do I have a resource on how to grow your will practice? We don't. Although we did, I think, Michaela, we may have done a couple of years ago something about growing your wills practice. Now November is Make a Will Month, so-called Make a Will Month in Ontario. The OBA sponsors a lot of public relations kind of information for the public about doing your will. So that you're going to see that in the media. Presumably there'll be articles about it. But I will check, Tim, to see if we have something about that. I mean, if anybody has tips on growing your practice, please share that with Tim and with us, and we can, we can also share that with the greater eState community as well. So, if anybody missed the beginning of this and wants to see anything, just let me know. I'm going to show again multiple document generation in a moment, but if there's anything else that people missed, I'll be happy to show that as well. Otherwise, what I'm going to say is if you want to drop off, thanks. This week, we've got a great advanced user webinar on Thursday. And it's on executors compensation, specifically the new cases. There's been a whole bunch of cases that have come out in the last couple of years. And so we're going to comment on those and bring people up to date on that. So hope that that is useful, and hope you'll join us. Let me just see. Currently under setting up trust, the planner allows setting age for distribution of capital. Is there an option? Access to income specifically for minor children. The income, so let's just go to that as an example. So I think, are we talking about, Gunjan, are we talking about in the trust for beneficiaries under a certain age? Because what we do in that document is we pick the youngest age that you're making an interim distribution and thereafter pay the income. So that's what eState does if you add a stage in there. If you're doing just a regular trust, you can set the mandatory payment of income, and I'll just show you sort of where that is. So if we were creating a trust for, let's say, a child, and I'll demonstrate this. Let's just do this. We have a trust. So the discretionary payments, you can set up mandatory payments for capital, that's stage lump sums, but you can also indicate when income should start being paid. So if you're saying, listen, I want to start the payment of income at age 22, even if there's been no capital distribution, you can do that. And eState will generate that. It'll say you can, it's discretion. It's always discretionary unless you've limited it completely. But if you've limited both, if you've said no income and no capital, then you don't want to trust. But the point here is that it's going to be discretionary till a certain age. And if you can put in the age when they have to start paying it out as a mandatory payment. That's under, again, mandatory payment of income. And you could do that immediately. So here it is, mandatory payment of income. You could do it immediately, or you could do it a condition on some kind of condition. I typically use age, but there might be some other reason. So I hope does that make sense? Great. Okay. Great. So thanks, everybody. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm going to just show you one more time how to multi-select documents, and we'll see you on Thursday, I hope. Thanks. So just for those who missed it, this is now how you generate documents, how you download documents, how you set the inputs for the documents, and how you view the documents. Instead of going to the download button, you go to this button, which says Documents. You click on it, and up will come a list of all the documents that are available for you. And you can click on more than one, and it will generate as many documents as you want. And you just only have to certify once and go continue, and it's going to do that. Now, don't download those documents until you're satisfied that you've got all the inputs put in for them and those kinds of things that you want. But yes, you can multi-download. Just to explain what I mean by inputs, I'll just go to power of attorney for property. Now, when you choose a document, you've got two panes here. You've got the viewer, which you're familiar with. You also have all those inputs that you're used to seeing only when you go to download. Now it's available when you're viewing it, and it's saved. So if you put it in once here and leave this client or leave this document or whatever, anything you've checked off is saved automatically. Okay, you don't have to hit a save button or anything else. It's persisted on this client. So the data stays with the client. You can come back to it. You can change it. So that's the benefit. If you don't want to see the inputs while you're viewing it, you can just click them off here. And now you'll just see the viewer. And if you want to see what the inputs are, here you go. And if you change this in any way, for example, let's put in the signing date, and we just pick a signing date of today, let's say. Now we just refresh, and it's going to now generate this document with this signing date. And when I come back later, so if I know the signing date, 3 weeks in advance, I can put it in here and it'll be there automatically. And so when I go down here, you'll see it's got that in there. So, and that's really useful for things like where for a particular client, you don't want to include, this paragraph, for example, or you want to put in a special, foreign property, pick whatever clauses you want for this particular client, it'll be saved on here, right? So automatically, and then when I go to view it again, it's done. So it's going to make it a lot easier to customize a document for each client, because these inputs that are only available in this section are now staying with the client. So it doesn't yet generate for both the spouse and the client at the same time. We're thinking of doing that, but it's using different data. So we want to make sure that's going to work properly. But this is the first part where you can generate multiple documents for a particular client. So hope that helps. Any other questions? I probably sat through this twice, everybody, but great. Well, thanks. I hope everybody has a good afternoon, and see you on Thursday, we hope. And we'll go from there. Great. Take care, everybody.